In marketing, we had products, one of the P's. Now that P has been split into two. One is goods and the other is services. Now, this has been done because services are remarkably different from goods and they need to be understood separately. Now, let's see what are the differences. Intangibility is one, perishability is the second, inseparability is the third, and variability is the fourth. Intangibility would mean anything that cannot be assessed through our five sense organs. Anything which requires a higher level of understanding than the mere inputs through these five senses would be termed as intangibility. Perishability is a factor where we need to understand that services are, the moment they are produced, they have to be consumed. They cannot be left idle. They cannot be, even the capacity that is there for services, they have a problem of not being able to, if we are not able to sell it immediately, we cannot store it for a future usage or future sale. Inseparability is when the customer, the consumer gets involved in the production process. So here we have a situation which needs to be controlled very nicely, very well. Otherwise, things can go very nasty. Variability is another thing about services. Unlike goods, which can be produced in large numbers with very close specifications, very close tolerances of those specifications. In services, there's a large amount of variety. Of course, they can be controlled in certain ways, but it is an issue that needs to be addressed. Let's look at each of these now and what needs to be done to control each of these characteristics. To reduce tangibility, we stress on to reduce intangibility, we need to stress on tangible cues. All goods, all services, all material have an element of tangibility and intangibility. So we take up the tangible portion of the service and try to elaborate on it. Second, we use personal sources of information. This is very similar to the next one, stimulate word of mouth communication. People should talk about your service, people should know about your service, and that reduces the intangibility component. Next thing we need to do is create a strong corporate image, which means that people should get cues about the service from the corporate that it represents. Okay. Next is we need to have employees who are good at communicating with customers. So if they do that, a lot of things which the customer does not understand will get out of the way. Let's look at perishability. We need to increase the supply to match demand. There are times when the demand is high, and then we need to know how we can cope with this high demand in order to deal with it. Decrease demand to match supply. There are also situations where we have a supply constraint, okay, and then what we look at is ways to reduce the demand. In fact, both these things need to be understood and adjusted. The word manipulate is used over here, so you need to understand in what way you can change the two. Inseparability, like I told you earlier, the service is produced in conjunction with the customer. Now, if that is so, part of the inseparability can be reduced by automating certain amount of that service. Now, also, if the employees are well trained, the right sort of people are picked up for service delivery, then we have a reduction in inseparability. The customers need to be managed. Very often, if a customer is unruly, that affects the delivery of the service, that affects other customers. So this is something that we can do to manage inseparability. Last thing to reduce inseparability is to have more than one location in which delivery is possible. Let's move on to variability. In order to reduce variability, we say that we industrialize the service. Industrialize would mean doing everything that needs to be done to make it manage it the way an industry does. Have good structure, have good control systems, have good quality checks, have all those things that happens in an industry. Okay, that would reduce the amount of variability. Another thing that we can do is look at procedures and find out in what way procedures can be smoothened out, standardized. Write down the specifications, do it thoroughly so that you can standardize the process. Third thing is customization of service. Very often, services become individualized. We need to come out of that and say that yes, this is the only thing that we can actually be doing, and we don't need to go any further than this. Make it that much only. Okay. At this point, I will pause the video because we need to go into a quiz, and you also pause it, do the quiz, come back, and we'll attend to the rest of the duration after this. Welcome back. Now that you're through with the quiz, let's get on with the rest of the understanding on introduction to services. Please write these five, six things about services: nature of organization, nature of service, customer relationships, nature of demand, service package, and delivery method. Now, this is the way we understand and differentiate one service from the other. Okay, we will see each one in little more detail, but first you need to know that the services are classified, they are separated from each other in our understanding on these six issues. Let's look at nature of organization. Nature of organization would mean, let us say, structure, whether it is profit, non-profit, the purpose of the business, whether it is a traditional one involving individuals, whether it is business or whether it is both. Okay. Similarly, type, whether it is a public service or it is a private service, that we need to understand. Okay. Now moving on to nature of service. Degree of tradability. Is it something that you can trade in? Is it something that you can market through intermediaries? Okay. Service directed towards, is it directed towards individual? Is it directed towards, let us say, equipment? Okay. Service can be directed towards, let's say, a coffee making machine, or it could be directed towards an individual who needs to know something, who needs to have a procedure done on himself. And the degree of merchantability. Okay. Is it something that you can easily give it to the person, or you need to have a great deal of understanding of how to distribute the services? Okay. Next, look at customer relationship. Is it formal? Is it informal? Or is it a combination of the two? Degree of participation, customers' involvement in delivery of the service. Okay, we have, for example, self-service restaurants, and we have restaurants where the full service is given. This is what we are we are talking about in terms of degree of participation in the customer relationships area. Next, nature of demand. Level of demand, does it exceed capacity? Sometimes does it, do we know about the demand? How wide is it? How narrow is it? In what way can we understand it, anticipate it, and do something about it? Okay, so understanding nature of demand is very important on these issues. Okay. Service package. Okay, there are a lot of things written over here. We need to understand whether the number of services and goods, the units of service, the degree of equipment base, okay, the degree of customization. Certain services require a very high level of customization, maybe in the case of let's say lawyers, okay, or let's say very high level of surgery, okay. But then there could be other types of services where customization is kept at a very minimum, maybe a self-service restaurant. Okay. The last one is the degree of durability. Okay. So these are the issues about service which we need to control and understand. Last one is the delivery method. Okay. Availability. Would you like to have it at one location or throughout the place? Okay. Nature of delivery, whether it is discrete or continuous or intermittent, what is it? Okay. Or is it a combination of them? Type of consumption. Okay. We are delivering, but the person who is consuming it, is he independent of us? Is it a lot of people together, collective, or is it a combination of both? Allocation of capacity, reservation, order of arrival, preferential, reservation and order of arrival. Okay, all these things we need to understand if we have to understand delivery method. Now we will pause this one more time for another quiz, and this is the second reflection point. Right then, we are coming to a close of this presentation. The quizzes have been answered by you, and the scoring will happen over a short period of time. Thank you.